Thanks for that. I feel like you covered most of it now, so thanks very much. I'll just start off to say, is there Josh Bellis in the crowd at all? Yeah? Your mum's Instagram me and said to say hello, so Josh Bellis. Yeah, so straight to my story then, I guess. So, I've got a normal childhood really. I'm from sort of Carlisle originally, so not too far from these parts. But nothing really sort of extraordinary about sort of that sort of lifestyle growing up. Sort of nice family, nice house, it's a good school there. I remember coming to this school actually and playing hockey a couple of times, coming from William Howard. It was always a really standy astroturf. It was really sort of tough to play. We always had loads of cut legs when you go home, but I believe it's all been redone since. So. But yeah, so the minute I hit puberty really, I began suffering from this sort of depression. Complete sort of lack of motivation to do anything, sort of no sort of get up and go, real sort of insecurities about myself, sort of self-loathing and all things like that. But really all kept it to myself, always put the front on, sort of going out, pretending to be happy, I guess playing that sort of joker role, trying to make your friends laugh, with the sort of idea that really, if I can make somebody else happy, maybe that'll make me happy. This wasn't often the case. I just sort of struggled through it all the time, and just sort of trying to sort of cope with the thoughts I was having the only way I knew really possible, which I didn't really have any sort of medication at the time. I didn't sort of do any other major activities. So when, as Nala mentioned, when I got to sort of 18, I've been working a lot in the hospitality trade. So 18, I was allowed to work behind the bar, which also meant I could then drink. So I was introduced to alcohol at first, and alcohol really sort of quickly took a big part in my life. At first it was great, sort of made me feel really happy, made me feel really confident, made me forget all the thoughts I was having before, the bad thoughts that were bringing me down all the time. But really, although this was brought into my life initially as a bit of a coping mechanism by the sort of depression, it didn't end up sort of being that way long term. Now, at 19 I ended up going to university in York. So I moved out there. I was actually very short notice. I got the letter through on the Friday, I moved there by the Saturday, I started my course on Monday. Fine. Now, growing up sort of around Carlisle, where sort of in the rural sort of environments, I was very much a countryside lad, you know. This sort of now was quite a big city for me, York. Again, I appreciate it's still quite small as cities go in this country, but for me it was like, look at all these things I've got available to me. Especially one of the big things available was the fact that there was far more pubs, far more bars, far more clubs. And these were open all night long. So now I was in the city, I quickly once again found a job in the hospitality trade, behind the bar again. And just continued the lifestyle sort of started off back home really. So again, for me, it was a way to sort of sedate my mind, sedate my thoughts, these crippling thoughts I had daily, sort of not wanting to be here at all, sort of always not wondering what my purpose was, not knowing sort of if anyone liked me in this sort of way. It was just my mind always playing tricks, but having the alcohol there for me just dismissed all these, just sedated it, just got rid of them. But this started escalating further and further and further, and the studies quickly fell by the wayside at university, and I actually dropped out. So I went full time in the industry I was in the pub trade, and really started slipping down a slippery slope at this point. So I'd also taken up smoking at this point. I was now drinking sort of in excess of 20 pints a day, and I'd also ballooned to 22 stone. So I put on about 5 stone in the space of 3 months during that period as well. So a very unhealthy lifestyle. I wasn't doing any exercise at the time. I was living very much to myself. I was just heading out to work, drinking at work, drinking through work, going out in the town, starting again, day to day. Now, it wasn't until I got to about my 21st birthday that sort of these thoughts I've been having from, as I say, the start of puberty, so we're talking sort of 12, 13, on, became sort of a bit more well known amongst my friends and my family. I had a lot of friends coming to visit sort of from Carlisle, come down for my 21st birthday, which was a big celebration of course, and again at that sort of age, quite a big drinking affair. So it was great. So for 5 days all these friends came down, we went off into the town and whatnot, celebrated this birthday, and one by one more and more went home. Until on the 5th day, there was just one friend left. And again we were out as we were the whole day, around the town, wandering about. And it started to dawn on me again that very quickly, the next day, I was due to be alone again in this city. Just me, just my thoughts, just this now medication originally as I dubbed it, but now what was becoming my poison. And this became, in my mind at the time, the final moment for me. I decided that these thoughts I've been suffering from for all these years, these thoughts of not wanting to be here, wanting to be off this planet, were now at their pinnacle. So after being out on the town all day, leaving my friend in town, I walked back near to where my digs, quite close to the railway station, and I picked up the payphone and ran home, Carlisle. So this is about 3, 4 in the morning, and I rang my mum to tell her goodbye, basically. So I don't remember a lot of this call. I was completely inebriated, I was very drunk at the time, so I don't remember what was said, other than the fact that I decided this was the end. And my plan was to jump to where the tracks were below. Thankfully, I didn't go through with this. And the next day I was carted back to Cumbria, and sort of intervention in this lifestyle, I guess, sort of straight to the doctors and whatnot, discussing this problem I'd suffered from an early age, trying to sort of find help and trying to find a way to recover from this. But I wasn't ready to change at this point. So within a week, I booked a train again, I was back to York, I carried on the lifestyle as I went on. The only way I knew how to sort of cope with these thoughts. Now for 4 years, this continued on, this same lifestyle, same pub, same town, day to day, smoking, drinking, not doing any sort of exercise whatsoever. And somehow during this whole stage, I managed to find myself a girlfriend. Something for everyone, I guess. Now, we had a serious relationship at the time, someone I very much loved at the time, and I was together with this girl for about 1.5 years, but I was always living these two lifestyles. So by this point, I'd already had a first love for me, which was alcohol. And the two played off. It was almost having like two relationships on the go at the same time that never really met. Sometimes they'd cross over slightly, but there's always little white lights here and there to hide this other lifestyle. But I wasn't being true to myself. And in the end, I wasn't true to her either. And the relationship broke down. But she was very amicable during this, and this day was the 6th of June, 2016. And in an effort to try and keep my partner at the time, I guess, I decided that this was no longer the life I could lead. It became unmanageable. The way I was drinking, the way I was smoking, the lethargy I had. And I decided that was it. I wasn't going to drink anymore. I wasn't going to smoke anymore. I was going to live a different life. She didn't take me back. But I knew this was the life I was going to carry on with anyway. So I actually left this city behind. I'd been there 7 years. I knew a lot of people at this point. I had a job. But I'd now lost my girlfriend. So I left my house. I left my job, I left this city I lived in, and I came back to Cumbria. And within the first few weeks, I found work with a friend of mine who works in Grasmere in the Lake District. So without really sort of knowing where I was going to plant my feet again, I found myself in the lakes, moving here, and I was in a new place, starting a new lifestyle. And it was here that this friend introduced me to hiking out in the fells. Again, I had no interest at all. Why do I want to be sort of walking up these hills? What's the big deal about that? I'd always seen them from afar, from sort of Carlisle, appreciated the views, but there's no way I wanted to go and struggle to go up there. You know, so sort of, I'd rather be in the pub sort of having a beer, but he took me up anyway, he forced me up. And I can remember the first one he took me down to Blencathra car park, and we shot there. So that was my first spell when I got back. So 2 weeks after this whole lifestyle had stopped. I remember each step struggling further to get up there, and it was almost dragging me up, and it wasn't a very nice day. I picked up whatever I had. I didn't have any gear to hand, I didn't have any equipment, so I think I put on my Lonsdale trainers at the time, a pair of swimmer shorts and a jumper from Next. They took one look at me and said, I'm not taking you up in that. So he pulled by, go outdoors, grabbed me a pair of boots, and he bought me this pair of boots. Now, I didn't have a penny to my name at this point really, it all gone down my neck. So I didn't have anything that sort of way either. And we managed to reach the summit of Blencathra, and without sort of me trying to catch my breath, you know, without me even sort of being able to turn around and say anything to him, he just looked at me and said, Helvellyn next week. So next week followed, and we did Helvellyn again. Again, the same struggle. I was a little bit fitter, I guess, by this point, but still very much not in a period of fitness at all. We managed to get to the top of Helvellyn again, and I can remember that moment looking down across and looking on the sort of striding edge, down there onto Red Time below, onto Ullswater, and it just sort of clicked something in me. I talk about it as almost a new addiction being formed. But now this love for some sort of hill walking and getting out there, and sort of this new challenge of walking up somewhere had become like the challenge I was facing in my own life, sort of thing like that. The sort of physical manifestation of the thoughts I had in my head were always pulling me down, and sort of this alcohol that I was using to sort of get a more positive mindset, this was now replaced with sort of this fitness-based lifestyle. And this sort of carried on, and I just kept going forward that sort of thing. So originally we started over these hills, and we slowly getting these sort of fells, and then we started going out running at one point. So I couldn't go to bath before this time or something, and I couldn't go down to the shops. And so from this date, 6th of June, we started going to the fells of the Lake District, started running. So in March of that same year, so it's like sort of 9 months on, we're at the start of a line to run a marathon. And I ran this marathon, and it was just like a complete different turn off in my life. So here's me being sort of 22 stone plus at this point, really living the fighting lifestyle, to sort of completely switching all this again to try and win this run back. Originally didn't work, but still it was worth doing it. And over time I realised that this was more for me, this was more for my mindset. And as I got fitter and lost the weight, and started really appreciating these fells a lot more, it really improved my mental state as well. And really just feeling the being outdoors and sort of loving that sort of environment has been instrumental to me in sort of turning that round. Something I wouldn't have got if I stayed in the city, certainly not. But since then I've gone over and climbed over 100 Wainwrights sort of way in this area. I've done sort of Snowdon, Ben Nevis on the ridges. I've even sort of climbed the two highest mountains in Australia. But my big passion there now was my love of cooking, which I guess was always my passion sort of from a young age, self-taught with my grandmother. That I've now started taking back into the outdoors again, so that's my big bit there. So I love sort of getting out there, keen hiker as I mentioned at the start, wild camping in these fells, again wild camping in those Australian fells as well. Loads of spiders, wouldn't recommend it, but very nice. But taking all these sort of dishes out there and sort of heading up to these spots where I find real escapism from sort of the modern world, and really sort of headspace, somewhere to sort of clear my mind, somewhere where it's back to basics. It's almost like how we used to live out sort of ancestrally. There's a real sort of connection there with me in the outdoors. I think also sort of humans and sort of how we used to live in that environment and how much better it was for us. So for now, I love to be up there, summiting these hills, getting the views from below, pitching my tent up there, and just cooking these fantastic meals up to enjoy it really. I find that really sort of invigorating. But I guess I'm sort of somewhere I don't really know how to end, I'm afraid, but it's. I guess my journey is still continuing on, but I still have my struggles occasionally on day to day. It's much more manageable now. It's learning how to manage those better. As I said during the start, I managed those with alcohol, which was the wrong thing to do at the time. As I said, what I thought was then my medicine became my poison. But now with this sort of new lifestyle, much healthier living, enjoying the outdoors, I've managed to sort of gain and become the person I always wanted to be. And really I'm so glad that I sort of hung in past those points and sort of stayed here. Through some of the hardest times to where I am now. So yeah, tough times don't last, tough people do. Thank you very much.